Hey everybody, Tim and Jordan here for another review of Golden Girls. Imagine that, it's been less than a month, which actually I don't think that's true. I think it's been a month already. Because I think the last video was the 23rd, and it's the 26th. But anyways, so we got 3 new episodes coming out. Actually, not new. I mean, they're like 25 years old at this point. So, or actually, I think Golden Girls is older than me. So I think it's like 30 years. Anyways. Episode 18, The Operation, which I feel like this episode is more directed towards you, so I want your opinion on it.
Oh, okay.
So, this episode is mostly about Dorothy has to go in for an operation. Super simple, on her foot, nothing major. And then Rose and Blanche are doing like this tap dance routine in the background. Now, the reason I want your opinion on this one more is I've had for lack of a better word, a metric fuck ton of operations. Like, my appendix burst when I was in high school. I've had major, like jaw surgery, and, I've had tons of surgery. I've broken multiple bones, fallen out of trees, my neck, all sorts of stuff going on in my life. I was a very clumsy kid. So that being said, for this episode, Dorothy just has to have a routine. She has almost like a tumor or something on her foot.
Yeah, some type of growth on the bottom of her foot.
And they're like, it's benign, like it's not cancer, it's really simple. We go in, we remove it, you're done.
Yeah, like she even says she's been living with it for 30 years. It's just causing her a little discomfort on her foot, and that's it.
And she's like, no, I'm good. It's surgery. Nope, I'm fine. And it's like, what? So for me, I was a very unhealthy child. Like, pneumonia every year. I had the chicken pox 4 times, maybe 5 times. Like, it's in my medical record, all sorts of stuff. Now, for you, who was like the epitome of health, until now as an adult, I never get sick, and somebody is always sick. For you, who has never had surgery, you've never been under anesthesia, have you?
No, I've never had a surgery at all. I mean, I've had a lot of dental work, so I mean, I've had
But did they put you under?
No, I've never even been under for that.
Yeah.
I've just had the shit numb the fuck out of my mouth.
Now, for me, even, I always tell people, oh, I had major surgery. I had my wisdom teeth pulled. And they're like, that's not major surgery. For me, for one, my wisdom teeth were so impacted they were sideways, and they had hooks on the end of them. So they actually had to remove part of my jawbone just to get to my teeth. So my wisdom teeth surgery was not the routine, oh, we're going to put you out, we're going to wake you up. They actually had to remove part of my bone just to get to my teeth. So it was way more complicated. So, for me, anesthesia's nothing. I've been in the, count down from 10, 10, 9, boom, I'm done. So for you, and this whole episode is about Dorothy being scared of this. So for you, what is surgery this just mythical Star Trek, no, anesthesia's not real type situation? Or what would it be like for you to be under anesthesia?
For me, well, I don't know, because I've never been.
But if they called you and they're like, okay, you have to go into surgery today, here's anesthesia, here's chloroform, what does it smell like?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, 2 seconds I'm out, I wouldn't know, but...
And that's kind of what surgery's like. I remember when my appendix burst, it was one of those situations. I remember some of the conversations, and then I just remember waking up afterwards. But, for you, does that terrify you? Does the thought of surgery scare you?
For the side of surgery that scares me a little bit is, I have friends in the medical field, and, all of my things that I worry about, they're trust me, they have a whole line of drugs set up for that. They are prepared for it. So, I mean, what I'm scared about is mostly, I don't know if I'm going to have an allergic reaction to something that I'm under, because how are they going to know? Because they can't ask me, hey, how do you feel? Are you itchy? Are you hot? Are you cold? What's going on? Because I'm under. And so that's my biggest concern, is having an allergic reaction to something, and then since I'm having such a bad allergic, it's making me stutter just thinking about it. Just having an allergic reaction so bad that it makes my surgery be hey, just so you know, this 4-hour operation is now a 12-hour operation, because we had to wait for the allergic stuff to go away. I feel like my luck, that's what would happen.
a little bit. Knowing your luck with medical stuff.
They'd be like, well, we were in there. We found like 20 other things wrong.
Your mom's allergic to something. Isn't she like penicillin or something?
It's something really common.
Or like iodine or something. She's allergic to something like common.
I think it's penicillin.
But still, so like if you had to have surgery for something super common on your foot, not important. Like, still scares you, though, right? Like, you're definitely the Dorothy of this episode.
Oh, God, yeah. It's just because, like I said, I've never been out, so the worries that I have are, like, you know, I'm a very personable person, so the fact that I'm going to be in a gown and, you know, I'm going to be, like, I don't know, once if they do something, like, I don't know. Like, that's my other big fear, is that, like, just, I'm a very,
What? Yeah. Okay. So the thing that about this episode, like besides the surgery that interested me, was seeing Rose tap dance.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, is Betty White, like, an accomplished tap dancer?
I feel like she probably definitely has some dancing in her background. I wouldn't be surprised.
Because then later on, we see Rue McClanahan, the actress that plays Blanche, tap dance.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know, like, Betty White has been around for a minute. Like, she's been around for a long time. Before Golden Girls, before the game shows, like, everything, like, back to, like, Angels, or whatever that show is called, or Life with Betty. Yeah, like, she's been around for a minute. So, like, I'm curious to see how, like, much, like, did she need training? Because, you know, in TV shows nowadays where they're like, okay, you're going to have a dance sequence and they're going to train for it and they're going to be ready and they're going to do their dance scene and that's it. That's all the dancing they ever know for actors nowadays. But, like, Betty White, did they be like, okay, so we're going to teach you how to tap dance? And she's like, oh, honey, please.
Let me teach you.
Yeah, like, let me show you how it's done. Like, I'm curious to see how much Betty White already knew before this episode.
I feel like like I said, I feel like she's been around a while and she's done a lot of shows and everything. I feel like tap dancing probably has come through a time or two. I feel like that's something that I feel like that's just something she, like, has already known.
It's just one of those many more qualities of Betty White that we all love.
Exactly.
So, for me, I am definitely the more actor-oriented person in this relationship. And there were two definitely big shout-outs for this episode. For one, Robert Picardo makes a reference. And he plays and he plays the doctor that, like, is like, oh, yeah, like, your normal doctor is on a malpractice lawsuit. Like, he's being sued. And Dorothy's like, what? And he's like, yeah, for me, that's the guy that played the Doctor in Voyager. He played the hologram. So I was like, oh, that's great. He was also in Gremlins 2. I don't know if you saw Gremlins 2.
Honestly, not enough to remember.
He played the guy that basically ends up sleeping with the female gremlin. Oh. So anyways, so he's the first big name actor in this. And then the second one was Annie Henney, as I think how you say her name. She was the woman that Dorothy wakes up to. She's like in the bed next to Dorothy. And she's like, oh, I've been through surgery tons of times before. That's right, yeah. Like, that was the woman from, like, Mrs. Doubtfire. She plays the woman that goes to check on Robin Williams' character. And, like, he's the one where, like, she goes in and she's like, well, where's your sister? Well, where's your brother? And she ends, like, doing the faceplant in the pie. And she was also the secretary in Liar Liar. Where she's like, tell me something you would lie to. And it ends up being the story of, like, oh, your birthday gift was something at a yard sale or something. And she's like, I quit. Like, she's a terrific actress. She was also in The Next Generation. But anyways, the two very big actors are in this episode, so I thought that was great. Overall, I really enjoyed the episode. It was a meaningful episode. I mean, it deals with surgery and tap dancing and all sorts of stuff. Like, as somebody who had never been through surgery, as somebody who had been through surgery, you like it, you dislike it, indifferent?
I mean, I kind of feel like Dorothy kind of went a little over. I feel like, I mean, like, if it was my foot, okay, honestly, no. Like, I mean, I would just be like, I'm just going to live with it because that's cool. But I mean, like...
Much like Dorothy.
Yeah, but I mean, Dorothy actually, she schedules the surgery. She's in the bed and everything. And she's like, I'm going to go home. Bye. And she actually does go home. Where me, like, my ass would just be like, okay, I'm here. I signed up for this. I'm sticking through until the end.
Good.
But like I said, if it was just my foot, and I'd be like, you know what, simple tumor, lived with it for 30 years, guess what? Another 30 years isn't going to hurt. Or at least little by little it will, but I'll live with it.
Okay. Moving on to the next episode, episode 19, The Second Motherhood. I love this episode. This episode, I think of it almost every single day. Like, as soon as I get home from the day, or when I wake up in the first of the part of the day. Like, this is the one where they try to reinstall, or they try to install a toilet.
Yes.
And the number one scene that has stuck with me as a small child watching Lifetime as a kid to now is the toilet in the living room. And I'm like, that is brilliant. Like, I am the Sophia of this episode, where I'm like, this is great. Who thought of this? Like, I love it. Like, so you and I have been together for 8 years. We're purchasing our own home, and we've changed things throughout the years.
Oh,
I mean, we're going into year 2 of owning our own home, which is an accomplishment, especially for like kind of our generation and just today's society in general. Like, to own your own home is big. So that being said, I'm definitely the like, let's just sit down, watch TV, let's keep things easy. And you're the one that's like, let's knock out walls. Let's reinstall. And so this whole episode is basically them being like let's redesign the bathroom.
Well, it's not so much as redesign the bathroom.
Which I don't even know. Did they talk about what started this whole thing?
Honestly, I don't even know why they made such a big deal of it, because all they did was they installed a toilet. That is all they did.
I don't remember if they mentioned why. What caused them to be like, we need a new toilet? Like, I don't even remember.
Well, because I want a new toilet. I don't know. But I just remember, they want the new toilet, and when the plumber comes in, they realize it's going to be like X amount more dollars for him to sit there and install it.
Mm-hmm. Just to carry it into the bathroom is going to cost more.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically, I feel like this is kind of like a woman's power like moment, because the plumber's like, oh, women can't do this, and they're like, watch us, and like they start out with the biggest struggle is that they can't move the toilet from the living room.
Oh, because it's too heavy.
Yes.
Yeah. He's like, well, if you're going to install it here, I'm just going to leave it here.
Yeah, because he walks in, he makes it look all like, super easy, no problem, and then 2 of them can't move it. So instantly it starts to be a problem right there.
I've never picked up a toilet. I don't know how heavy they are.
Heavy enough to definitely be heavy. I mean, it kind of depends on your strength level, to be honest. But overall, I mean, they work through it in the episode. I mean, I don't know. There's a part where they are definitely doing something to the plumbing, and I don't know what they are doing.
They flush the toilet and the shower comes on.
Yeah, and they have like half the wall, and I'm just like, all you're doing is installing a toilet. And so like that's the part of me that like,
it's an overly complicated episode.
Yeah, and that's Rose, bless her heart. She's like, we did all the plumbing on the farm in St. Olaf, and right there they should have known to get the plumber.
Yeah, I love that. Because I think, unfortunately, like, I agree with you part of the way. Like, it's definitely like we're going to do this ourselves. But unfortunately, I think by the end, they do get the plumber to finish it, though. So it's like a woman empowering episode, and then it's like, no, we do need the man's help. Because doesn't he come in to finish it?
No, I think they do it all. I mean, it takes them like a week or something. I remember it takes them a long time. Because they messed with all the pipes, and they did all this, and they had to...
Because I thought Sophia called the plumber, and then he comes in and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he like turns off the water.
Oh, I think that's. Oh, maybe he does come in and do. Oh, no, we'll have to rewatch this episode again.
Oh, okay. And then below this, I mean, obviously that's kind of the fun part of the episode. And below this is like, so the thing that I like about TV shows and dislike about TV shows is you got like a half hour. So tell your whole story in a half hour.
All right.
Now, this is the 80s is when this took place. So, like, we are currently in 2019. So we're looking at it with that type of a lens. And, like, a lot of this episode is Blanche meeting a new guy. And he proposes. And she's like, yes. Now, if this TV show was done today, this would be an arc. Like, this would be multiple episodes. This would be a build-up.
Oh, no.
Whereas for this one episode, we meet this guy and we have to be like, is Blanche going to marry him? No, of course she's not going to marry him, because by the next episode, she's going to be single again. But overall, like, the whole episode was he proposes to her, he's rich, he wants to take her out to fancy stuff, but the reason this episode is called Second Motherhood is he has 2 kids, 7 and 9, which I will not make a Voyager joke about that. And then just them being together. And does Blanche want to raise babies again? Because she considers 2 and 7 to be, or 7 and 9 to be babies. Yeah, because she's a grandma already. So
yeah, she's raised her family.
So I mean, we've already talked about hypothetically, like if one of us died or something, like how the other would proceed. Like, could you imagine seeing, like, regardless of me, like, imagine I'm not here, would you ever pursue a relationship with somebody who had small children? Like, granted, like, where we're at in our age, it's in the realm of possibility. But now imagine, like, 20 years from now.
So like 50 or 60.
Yes. Like, you're already, like, the grandparent age, and you're seeing somebody, and they're like, by the way, I have small elementary school children. Like, is that a deal breaker for you? Or... like the whole second parenthood, second fatherhood for you, like, I don't know, how would you feel about that?
Honestly, it's one of those, I strongly agree that if you're dating someone that has kids, you have to love the kids as much as you love the person that you're dating.
Agreed. But so, I think that's also a deal breaker. That is, like, I agree. If you're going to see somebody who has kids, you have to like those kids as much as you like the person.
I believe that's what I just said.
So, but, and I was reiterating, but if you're seeing somebody and they're like, by the way, I have small kids, and you're like, I hate kids, you should stop that relationship. As hard as it is, you should be like, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
It's one of those, yeah, and it's honestly, and it's a very touchy subject, because like I said, you have to love the kids as much as you love the person that you're dating, and the other problem is that, like, for me, I might not have kids now, but I know that if I did have kids, there would be a certain way that I would want them to act or present themselves. And that's the hard part, is that when you're dealing with someone who has kids that aren't yours, who
are already, like, 7 and 9 seems like that, like, they're already, like, their personalities are done.
Oh yeah, like, they've already established who they can manipulate. They already know who they can get away with.
Like, you're not changing those kids.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then that's where, if I were to come in and be like, hey, I don't like the way Johnny does his math homework because, you know, he's getting F's everything, so obviously he needs to check his work, that could easily open up an argument, because now I'm stepping in on where that person might think that I'm saying that they're a bad parent.
Right.
And it's a very touchy subject, and so, I mean, I don't, honestly, it's one of those, if the person, if you were to pass away or do whatever, us get a divorce, whatever, if I were to date a person that had a kid, it would honestly boil down to, do we have the same views on raising children? Because that would actually honestly be the deal breaker.
Yeah, and I gotcha. And I mean, that's kind of big shock. That's where the episode ends, where Blanche is like, you know, I don't think I could do this. And she breaks off the relationship on a plane. Like, who breaks up with somebody on a plane? Because she even starts, she's like, I'm sorry, but this is over. And then turns around, and you can even see the guy like, where are you going?
Yeah, like,
and it's just like, like, where you gonna go to the bathroom for the next hour before the plane lands? Like, I love Golden Girls and I love Blanche, but it's like, you chose poorly at that point to break up with somebody on a plane. So anyway,
cool. Enjoy the view while you can.
Yeah. Overall, I thought it was a good episode though. Like, looking at the toilet was funny, and then Blanche, like, kids or no kids, it was an interesting storyline. So I enjoyed it. Anything stand out?
No, not really. Like I said, I mean, it was a good episode overall.
Okay. Third, final episode for this review is Adult Education, which I didn't like. I actually really didn't like this episode. And this one kind of, it mostly boils down to, there's two plots. There's the main plot, the subplot, like always. The main plot is Blanche is in school, which I don't think they've ever mentioned her being in school before. So already, like...
no, maybe they did. I don't know. I can't remember now.
So already, from like the 2019 point where every episode has to be connected, I'm like, she's never been in school before. Why is she in school in this episode? And her teacher's basically like, we have to sleep together for you to pass. And she's like, I'm going to report you. And then when she does, the new dean does not care. And I'm just like...
Well, no, he's like, I'm a new dean. He's like, I have a stack of papers this big. When I get through all of this, I'll get to your issue.
And I don't believe that for a second. Like, I could be wrong. This could be, like, me as, like, a white male, like, assumption. But I don't believe a dean would ever do that. Like, I feel like if somebody was like, your teacher is sexually harassing me, boom. I feel like that would be a big thing. Not just be like, could you do this next week?
I feel like probably back then that's probably, but like nowadays with how things, I feel like they would jump on a little bit quicker. At least I hope they would.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, I could be wrong. This is the 80s, so maybe you're right. But like, I feel like the dean was an unbelievable character, and like the whole situation just seemed very unbelievable. And even then, like, she never got her revenge. Like, she aced the test to be like, I don't need to sleep with you to pass it, which still misses the point to me in this whole, like, Me Too movement. Like, her being like, I passed the test without doing you, is like no, he needs to go to jail. Like, that's the goal, not for you to pass your test. So, I don't know. Like, the whole thing just seemed missed on me. Like, I didn't like it.
I was like, honestly, I mean, like, I went to high school and everything, but like, I've never, right? But coming from someone who's never gone to college or anything like that, like, I don't know if that's actually a thing. I mean, I'm sure that is a thing that happens, but I mean, yay for Blanche because she didn't sleep with him. She aced her test, but I feel like, I mean, maybe it's one of those, like, since back then they touched up on it, that was great, they moved on. But I feel like they should have done a follow-up episode where, like, maybe, she does pursue, like, actually going, okay, you know what, fine. Hey, Dee, now that you're done with that whole stack of papers, I still feel like I was wrong. I want this taken care of.
Which is, like I said, like, there's not a lot of follow-up episodes in the 80s and 90s. Like, that's not really a thing. But, like, the fact that this episode did not end with him in handcuffs bothers me. Like, I don't know. It's a sexual assault is what it is. And it just, I don't know. It bugged me. This whole episode bothered me.
Yeah,
And then beneath this is the whole, like, scalping tickets thing. And that... Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
Like, Dorothy just wants to see Frank Sinatra. And again, like, as somebody who goes to concerts, who goes to musicals, who even goes to Comic-Con, like, ticket scalping is a thing. And so, like, that Dorothy wants to go see Frank Sinatra, and she goes to a ticket scalper, and then I think it was Rose won tickets on the radio, and then Sophia went to her own scalper, and they end up with, like, a bunch of tickets. They end up with, like, 9 tickets.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they go to jail, which we never actually see, because Dorothy gets caught trying to resell the tickets. And I was like, is that... I don't know. I wasn't interested. This whole episode just kind of bored me.
I was like, yeah, the whole scalping, I don't know, it's like when we go to Comic-Con, like, there's been times where we left early, and it's like, there's people outside that are like, hey, we'll buy your ticket for $10. Okay, well, there's only 2 hours left of the event, so give me $10. Like, I'm okay with that.
Thanks for that admitting that. Now that's on video record. Just in case that is illegal.
Well, I mean, but, like, we've already done it right in front of the building, and...
Yeah, nobody cares. Like,
yeah, I mean, and the guys, I mean, they're out there and they're saying that they're scalping. I mean, they have signs that say they're scalping tickets. So, I mean,
yeah. So ticket scalping is a weird thing. Like, I don't quite understand it. The one thing that is interesting to note: this is episode 20 of Golden Girls, and this is the first episode that Rose has said Saint Olaf. She's never said St. Olaf before this. This is her first time where she's like, well, in St. Olaf, this is how we did things. So, I don't know. I keep track of shit like that, so I thought it was interesting.
Oh, because I thought she talked about St. Olaf on episode 19, but that's okay.
Oh, the same. No, she didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just must because I know that she lives in St. Olaf, so...
I know, and that's one of those things. Like, when you think of Golden Girls, for most people, they think of cheesecake. We're 20 episodes in. They still have not eaten a cheesecake at all.
That is true.
So it's one of those things like where you see it over and over again, but it takes a while to build up to it. So she's never mentioned St. Olaf, and I think cheesecake is very soon after this. But still, like some of those St. Olaf or some of those like Golden Girls classic staples, we don't see right away. We see them towards the end. So, but still, it was kind of interesting. But yeah, out of all of them, I think this one kind of like... I wasn't interested in this one as much as the others. No.
Yeah, I would say this one, like, not really much. Like, they were all just kind of doing their own thing. Like, it wasn't really super serious, other than, I mean, I guess going to jail for scalping some tickets.
I mean, actually, kind of on the opposite. Like, I disagree. Like, on the opposite, I feel like this episode was not very serious, but it should have been more serious with Blanche and her teacher.
Yeah, I
Like,
feel
that one was so nonchalant, and I was like, no, send him to jail. And they're like, shame on you.
And that's where kind of I feel like that's where this episode, I don't really feel like it clashed. That's probably why it wasn't a really good one, is because you're putting someone who's in college, trying to get an education and using sex against her. And then you got someone who's trying to get tickets to go see Frank Sinatra. And so I feel like just the two storylines just didn't really flow together. And so maybe that could be why.
I agree with that. That's a good one. But overall, I mean, between the Operation Second Motherhood, I really enjoyed, and this one I didn't so much. But overall, like, still, it's Golden Girls. It's amazing. Everything's great. Any closing thoughts between the three?
Nope. No.
Okay. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being a friend. I feel so awkward saying that, like it's so forced, but it's still fun. So we will see you guys next time. We're almost done with the first season, so thank you guys for our 1 episode a month. We really appreciate it, and we will see you guys next time.